Today we are going to learn about a document called the Mayflower Compact, which was written in 1620 by a group of pilgrims aboard a boat called the Mayflower. But before we talk about who wrote it and what it said, we need to learn about why it was written. First of all, the pilgrims were traveling to the Americas for greater religious freedom, and they had permission to land here in the colony of Virginia, near the mouth of the Hudson River, in what is today called New York. But due to bad weather and strong tides, the pilgrims couldn't land in Virginia, and instead decided to anchor off of Cape Cod, Massachusetts, in what is now Provincetown Harbor. The pilgrims named the area where they came ashore Plymouth, after the town in England where they set sail. Since the pilgrims would now be living in an area outside of England's rule, they would no longer have to follow the king's laws, and this scared some of the people on board. What would happen if everyone could just do whatever they wanted? Chaos, that's what. And we call that anarchy. So, to avoid all this chaos and anarchy, and to keep everyone happy, the pilgrims decided to write the Mayflower Compact. Now, what does the Mayflower Compact actually say? The Mayflower Compact is a short document, only one paragraph long, and it pledges loyalty to the King of England, even though the pilgrims are outside of the king's realm. They make sure to be especially clear about their loyalty, mentioning the king here, 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 and here. This document is also important because it is an early example of the consent of the governed. Consent of the governed means that the permission to rule comes from the people. Consent means permission, and the governed refers to the people. So in other words, the people are giving the government their consent or permission to exist. Remember how the pilgrims could have had anarchy, but chose to write the Mayflower Compact instead? That's consent of the governed. The Mayflower Compact is also an example of the social contract theory. The social contract theory says that people are willing to give up some of their individual rights in order to follow and be protected by laws. So, in other words, you give up the right to anarchy, aka doing whatever you want, in exchange for protection against anarchy, aka everyone else doing whatever they want to do to you. The Mayflower Compact says, "We whose names are underwritten, solemnly and mutually in the presence of God and one another, covenant and combine ourselves together into a civil body politic, for a better ordering and preservation, for the general good of the colony, unto which we promise all due submission and obedience." So what they are saying is that they are making a civil body politic, or government, which is the consent of the governed, and for the general good of the colony, which is the social contract theory. Now if you look at the bottom of the page, you'll notice some signatures. On board the Mayflower, there were men, women, and children, but only men signed the document. During this time in England, women didn't have an official role in government and were considered to be represented by their husbands, so the 41 signatures at the bottom of the page are those of the men. And that, in a nutshell, is the Mayflower Compact.